let me welcome our amazing guest, Allyse Sedivy from the US/Czech Republic, who is highly successful in doTERRA. She's going to teach us how to be successful, how to reach new levels in your doTERRA business. She's a very successful entrepreneur, a CEO, doTERRA Triple Diamond, a business owner, and married to an amazing man and a mom to 5 amazing kids. So Allyse, thank you very much for being here. And we're all ears to hear your and learn from your wisdom.
Well, I'm really grateful to be here. I mean, my heart is really in Europe because I've been living in Europe the last 5 years. And my husband is Czech. So all of my kids are half Czech. I actually speak the language, and we have loved living in Europe. In fact, if all of my kids weren't back in the US, I probably would continue to live there for the rest of my life. That's how much I love Europe. But my older kids are here. And so just a week and a half ago, we moved back to the US, back to Utah, and are trying to settle in here and have leadership here in Utah. And I'm still walking around the house and looking outside and missing Europe. So I'm grateful to be talking to you, and absolutely, I understand what you're going through. I understand the business in Europe, and I also understand the conditions in Europe. I probably understand the European conditions even better than the US conditions because I've spent so much time there the last 5 years. So today, what I wanted to talk to you about, I know that there are many people on this call. Some of them are newer. Some of them are hitting maybe some of the ranks of director and elite and premier. And then there are some top leaders on this call too. So I wanted to think about, what could I say that would apply to not only when you're first building the business and when you're first, starting to build and getting going. The thing that hit me the most, and I think what I've learned, especially through this last year, being in lockdown. I know in the Czech Republic, we have had a really difficult lockdown. In fact, right now, they're one of the worst in the world per capita when it comes to COVID-19. And so everyone is in strict lockdown. So it's been a lot more difficult to have live classes. It's been a lot more difficult to get together. It's definitely been more difficult to sample. And so one of the things that I have found that has worked not only for the European market, but it's also worked for my leaders in the US, for my leaders in Asia, and for my leaders all over the world is how we can effectively use our time and how to schedule our time effectively. Now, we could talk a ton about how to sample and how to, follow up and how to host a class and all those things. If you do speak English, there's a wonderful training. It's just called the Daily Mentor Calls. So you can go on to dailymentorcalls.com, and it's free, and it leads you through step by step from the very first day of your business until, you're a diamond and beyond. And also, if you do speak English, many of you here don't, but if you do speak English, you can also join oilgames.com. And it's an interactive ranking program to help you rank advance. Now, for those of you that don't speak English, which is most of my team, right, in all over the world, one of the things that I would recommend that you do is you need to get really, really clear on your schedule. Now, when I talk about a schedule, many, many people, even though they feel like they're working doTERRA hard. And sometimes I'll talk to people and they'll say, I do doTERRA full time, right? I do it all day, every day, but they're, at Premier or they're at Elite and they've been there for a while. And I think to myself, why are they stuck in these ranks? And why isn't their time more effective? And one of the things that I've consistently found with builders is that they absolutely don't know how to schedule their time. and they're kind of just bouncing around, right? Doing one thing to another thing. And sometimes a lot of that time is spent on really ineffective things like organizing their oils or putting stickers on their oils, or even just spending hours and hours on calls that could be done in just several minutes, 15, 20 minutes. So, what I'm going to share with you something, okay, that I do and that I've trained my top leaders and my frontline to do. And not everyone has listened, not everyone has done it, but those people that have implemented this into their doTERRA schedule have been much, much more successful. Now, I believe in having a morning schedule, and I believe that not everything in our lives has to be consumed with our doTERRA business, right? I believe that we didn't come to Earth to do doTERRA, but we came to Earth to learn and to grow and to progress. And doTERRA is an incredible and important part of that journey. But in the morning, my morning schedule is really, really not just important, but paramount. Probably the most important thing that I do all day is to have a morning schedule that I take care of myself. And usually the first call I have with somebody, a mentor call with somebody, I ask them, what are the 4 most important things for you that you can do for yourself every day that make you feel better, that make you healthier, that make you feel like you're progressing and bring the most happiness in your life? And some people will say, to work out. Some people will say to read. Some people will say to pray or to meditate. Some people will say, if I spend time with, my kids or my husband, or even, read a book, whatever that is, I usually have people come up with 4 things. And my 4 things, just so you know, is I pray, I read from the scriptures, I move my body. And for me, I'm really strict with how I eat because it makes a big difference for me. So I don't have sugar or I don't have flour. And if I put those things at the beginning of the day before anything else happens, so if I wake up early and I do those 4 things, right, before my kids are awake, before everything, before all of my business builders start calling, before I need to get on webinars, before my day starts going, then I've already felt like I've had success. I've already felt like, boy, this is a great day, and it feeds me, right? And it gives me strength, and it also just brings a lot of happiness to my life. So sometimes in our business, we get so busy, and I understand those times. I've had times like this. We run so fast that we forget about ourselves. We stay up so late that we can't get up early. We have so much packed into our day that we're ignoring the most important relationships in our lives. And for a certain period of time, like a month or 2, or maybe even several months when we're really pushing, I understand this. And this has happened to me too. I call them, phases in my business. But really quickly, I need to get into those really good habits again. And it's interesting, almost always when I start mentoring somebody, they're really surprised that is what I start with, their morning schedule. And they're like, we're not even talking about doTERRA here. Why would you start with this? And I usually say, just wait. When you do your morning schedule consistently, day after day, week after week, in a couple of months, you will feel like a completely different person, and you'll be more ready to handle problems, overcome concerns, work harder, you'll feel better, and it'll bring you a lot more happiness. So that's the first thing that I recommend. If you don't have a morning schedule, get a morning schedule and get consistent with that morning schedule, whatever that is. I remember I was talking to one leader, and we were talking about her morning schedule. And she said, Allyse, I need to talk to my mom and dad every morning. That's what I want to do. I want to talk to them every day. And I thought, I don't talk to my parents every day. I'm almost 50 years old, right? But for her, it was really important. And I said, okay, then write that in. That needs to be something that, you do every morning then. And so everyone's morning schedule can be so different. But I usually say, 4 things that you're doing just for you. And it makes such a difference. And oh my gosh, it makes you, no one wants to follow somebody into business or anything else. No one wants to follow somebody that they don't want to become like. And when we're in control of our morning schedule and we're becoming better people, and we're overcoming our weaknesses, right? And making ourselves, higher quality leaders and higher quality people. All of those people that we talk to, they end up wanting to become like us. So that's the first thing, get a morning schedule. The second thing that I want to talk about. So I know people that can work 8 or 10 hours a day, sometimes 12 hours a day, if it's a really big day, right? And most of us don't have time like that. Unfortunately, I do doTERRA full time, and so does my husband. So we're given a lot of time to put towards our doTERRA business, but most people don't have time like that. Most of my leaders don't, or at least they didn't start out that way, right? And so what I recommend that they do is take 2 hours. Now, most of us spend more time on our business than 2 hours, but I recommend to take 2 hours and schedule it every single day. For example, if you're working and let's say you're working Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So maybe on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you would schedule those 2 hours after work in the evening, right? Maybe after dinner or after you put the kids to bed or, whatever. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, possibly you do that, in the morning because you're not working those days or you have more time. So those 2 hours a day don't have to be at the same time. Okay. But you have to put at least 2 hours a day. This is not just regular working. This is not, calls with your leaders. This is not training. This is not even teaching classes. But these 2 hours a day are highly, highly effective hours. These are called the magic hours in doTERRA. And what I do to prep, and usually my 2 hours in Europe, they were from 9:30. No. They were from 11:30 to 1:30. Those were my most productive hours. And I had 2 hours that I would literally, my kids were at school. Okay. They actually didn't go to school, but they had online school. So I told my kids, okay, these 2 hours, I can't be interrupted. You can't come in. I didn't check my phone. I didn't check my email. I didn't look at social media. I prepped everything to just have a super, super concentrated work time. And for 2 hours, I went to work and I worked hard. In fact, I got more done in those 2 hours than I think most people get done in like 6 or 7, maybe 8 hours a day. And it was just it was a time where I put it aside just to do things like contacting, following up, programs that I was involved. But it wasn't a time where I was talking with other people because that time would go really fast. And so I have, when you get good at these effective hours, okay, it kind of rubs off into every aspect of your life. For instance, when I would get really good at these 2 hours a day, and I would be just so effective, like I'd get so much done. Before those 2 hours, I would clean up my house. I would have breakfast with my kids and I would clean up my house. And I found that even cleaning my house, I would become more effective. I'd take less steps back and forth. I would grab things and clean at the same time. And like everything became more effective in my life because I was learning how to be effective. And then these 2 hours a day, which is the most effective hours that I have, right? I just didn't allow myself to be interrupted. And I got so much accomplished. So let's say you only have 2 hours a day to put to doTERRA. Most of us have a little bit more than that. But let's say you only have 2 hours to put to doTERRA. These need to be 2 hours that you guard. They need to be 2 hours that you prep. And let me tell you what I mean by prep. The night before you go to bed, or in the morning, if you do some of maybe one of the things you do for your morning routine, your 4 things in your morning routine might be to prep for the day. Well, I knew exactly what I wanted to do those 2 hours. I knew exactly what I wanted to accomplish. And I literally would set goals. Okay, in these 2 hour period of time, I'm going to do this and this and this, and I'm going to get this much accomplished. And I usually did. I usually got a lot accomplished. And I know that some of my leaders will say, gosh, Allyse, I just don't know how you get so much done. And I say, well, because I'm very, very aware of when I'm effective and when I'm not effective. Now, I work more than 2 hours a day, but I'm not as effective after those 2 hours. My brain can only take about 2 hours of like going, and being super effective and like accomplish, right? And then after that, I kind of need a break. And, I'll have lunch and I'll do things with my kids. And then maybe I'll get on calls and I'll do trainings, but those aren't my 2 hours. Those are times where my brain kind of has a downtime. So for you, if you only have 2 hours, guard those 2 hours and prep every day or every evening what you're going to be accomplishing in those 2 hours. Because I know that anybody that wants to do this business, if they put 2 hours, maybe 7 days a week, if you only have 2 hours, right? Or 6 days a week, that's 12 hours, 12 hours a week, you can accomplish so much. I've known of some leaders that will spend 5 or 6 hours a day doing doTERRA, but they are not effective with their time. And so they're 5 or 6 hours a day. They don't even accomplish as much as some people that have 2 hours of highly effective time, right? Highly effective time. So that would be my second thing that I'm going to just tell you that you really need to start looking at. If you've never done this before, this will blow your mind and it will change your business. And not just your business, it will change. I mean, even with my family, because I've learned to be more effective with my time, I'm way more effective with my children and more effective with like getting their things done and making sure, like right now I'm getting my kids back into school in Utah. And so right before this call, right, I was filling out forms and sending things and emailing and taking little like quizzes online to make sure that, they're immunized and all those type of things. Right. And I found myself like being super, super effective with my time and getting a lot done in a short period of time. Now, for some of you that are just overwhelmed by what I'm saying right now, and you think, oh my goodness, like I can't live like that, right? I can't be just on the go all the time. I have to tell you, I have 5 children. And if any of you have ever followed me on Instagram or on Facebook, I spend a lot of time with my kids. I do a lot of fun things with my kids. Like today we're getting ready and we're decorating the house during Easter, and we're doing fun like Easter traditions. So for all of you out there that feel like, you want to have a balanced life, I feel like the best way to do that is learn how to use your time effectively. And then when I'm with my children, I can relax. I can just be their mom. I mean, I can play. We can watch movies. We can do fun things. We can travel, So it's really, really important for me that when I'm working, that I'm working effectively, that I'm really working effectively. Now, the third thing I wanted to talk to you about today is when you're building doTERRA, what type of things, what type of activities are the most important things for you to be doing? Because we can be doing all sorts of things. And what I found with working, I mean, I have, over 1.5 million people in my organization, and we're in every open country and every language imaginable that doTERRA is in. We have teams and we have trainings and we're involved, right? So I could spend a lot of my time doing very ineffective things in my business, or I could find out what the most effective things are and spend my time doing those things. And over the years, I've looked at so many different organizations, so many leaders, and my own business, right? And I found that there are 7 different things, 7 things that make the biggest difference in your business. And when you're doing these 7 things consistently, week after week, month after month, year after year, it's almost impossible for someone to not become a diamond. I mean, we have diamonds in Slovakia. We have diamonds in Romania. We have diamonds in Russia. We have diamonds in almost every, open area. And some of them have just barely started the business. Some of them have been doing the business for a long time. But I have found that as I've studied these leaders and as I've studied what they've done, most of them all boil down to doing 7 most important activities. And if you can take your schedule and fit these 7 activities into your schedule, and even if you've just got 2 hours a day, right, to do the most important things, and then you can find some time to do some classes, this is going to make the biggest difference for you. The biggest difference. I mean, I'll just tell you right now, in COVID this last year, I have 2 new frontline leaders. Now, of course, we have more builders that I sign up than that, but 2 new frontline that we felt like, okay, these are frontline leaders. One of them has been building for about 6 months. They're in Thailand. Thailand is not open yet, so it's a little bit more difficult, right? Like, they don't have customer service yet. They don't have shipping that's working. They don't have, everything else that open areas have. But this month, he's going diamond. He's been platinum and he's going diamond 6 months after starting in a COVID year, right? And in a brand new market that is not open yet. You think to yourself, how does somebody do that? Well, the way that they do that is they get very, very effective with their time, and they know what things to spend their time on. And I was very clear when I trained him, this is what I want you to do. This is when I want you to do it. And you need to be completely consistent. And they have been. And that's why not only is he going diamond, but just 2 months ago, one of his frontline leaders hit diamond. And so their organization is just exploding. I'm going to give you another example. I have a leader by the name of Carlos. Carlos he joined me as a frontline 8 months ago. I was very, very particular on how I trained Carlos and what I told him to do, how to do it, and when to do it. And he has been following the duplication model to a T. And this month, he is going to go gold, which is fantastic, right? It's been 8 months. He's going gold, right? And he just set up his 4th leg. So within 2 or 3 months, he will be diamond. Now, how do we do that in a year in COVID, right? Where it's harder. Everything is harder. It's harder to sample. It's harder to get together. Well, it's possible. And my team right now is still growing. We're growing all over the world. And I just found another frontline leader just 3 weeks ago. And the exact same model we're going through and showing him, this is how we build. This is what we put our time into. And this is exactly how we do it. Now, let's go over those 7 things that are going to be really important to you. The first thing is this. You need to be making sure that you have classes every single week. Every week you have classes. You personally have classes, not your team, not your upline, but you personally have classes every week. That means that you need to have people at those classes, right? Right now, if you're in a market or an area that you have to have online classes, which is a lot of Europe, right? Then you need to be getting good at inviting people to online classes, following up with online classes, and teaching online classes. This is not something that's going to go away. We are going to have to get better and better and better at doing online. Now, yes, in some months, things will open up more and we'll be able to go back to more live classes, but online will never go away. So that's something you're going to have to get really good at. And I recommend at least 1 class a week. If you're trying to rank advance to a high rank, you're going to have many classes a week. And just to put this into context, okay, I had a leader a couple of years ago that joined me. She was my frontline. I found her, I signed her up, and she told me she was coming from another network marketing company. But she couldn't talk to anyone in that company. She couldn't talk to any of her old leaders. And because they threatened to sue her if she did. And so she had to start from scratch. And this was her situation. She had a daughter with health problems. And she came to me and she said, Allyse, I need to go diamond in 30 days. Can you imagine? Diamond in 30 days. She goes, I need to be making $10,000 a month in 30 days, because right when I start building somewhere else, they're going to cut my check, and I need to have this money for my daughter to pay for her health. And then she said this, and I never cannot be diamond ever again. I need to hit it the first month, and I never can fall back. Can you imagine like the pressure and maybe the stress of me thinking, oh my goodness, that, do I need to take this on? So what I did is I told her, I said, okay, now, oh, and then she asked me, is this possible? And I said, well, are you asking me if it's possible for our compensation plan for you to go diamond? Of course it's possible. In fact, I've helped other people to go diamond in 30 days, and I went diamond in 62 days. So of course I know it's possible. But the question is, are you willing to do the Herculean effort and work it will take to get there? So she said she was. And I, of course, taught her. I trained her. I showed her how to be effective. I showed her where to put her time and what to be doing. And then she and her husband together, because it was two of them, they did about 5 to 7 classes a day, 5 to 7 classes a day for 30 days. They signed up September 1st and they went diamond the end of September, and she's never missed a day of diamond. In fact, she's gone blue diamond and is working towards presidential. So does this business work? Absolutely. Do we need to know how to strategize and how to be effective? Absolutely. So if you're just doing 1 class a week, know that you're going to build a little slower. If you want to hit massive ranks, you've got to do a lot more classes, but at least 1 class a week you need to fit into your schedule. That's the first and most important part of this business. The first out of the 7 things you need to put into your schedule. The second is, after every single class, you need to have a business. We call it a business training class. It's just a 15, 20-minute class after your class. If you've never done this before, if you've never done a business overview or a business training, then you need to learn how to do these, because people are already there at your class. They're already loving your class. They're already excited about the oils. And if you tell them, well, those of you that are interested in the business, you can come back at a different time, you'll miss most people. But a lot of people will stay, and you introduce them to sharing the product. And there's a very specific way that you do this. You do it soft, you do it gentle, not pushy at all. And it's incredible, but you need to, that's the second thing that has to be in your, on your schedule. So, is your business class. Now, the third thing is you've got to have a continued education program. This is incredibly important, because we found that most people that get excited about doTERRA and end up buying a kit, a lot of times even though they've gone to your class, they don't understand how to use essential oils. I mean, it takes some time, right? And they don't understand how to keep people using the product and to get them on LRP. So what you need to do is start a continuing education program. Hopefully your upline already has one going, but if your upline doesn't have one going, join forces with people in your sidelines and that have the same language, because continuing education programs are where the magic of doTERRA happens. This is where we get people that are honestly, they love the product and they never stop using the product, because they are educated and they fall in love with so many different products, and they get on LRP. And this is why we have such a high retention rate here at doTERRA. So the next thing you need to make sure that you're doing is strategy calls. Now, strategy calls you can have with your upline. It should be at least once a week. If you're part-time in doTERRA, they should be a half an hour. If you're full-time in doTERRA, they should be an hour. You also should be having strategy calls with your qualifying leaders in each of your legs. So if you have 3 legs and you have a qualifying leader that is actually building the business, I mean, don't do this with product users or sharers. It will drive them crazy. But if you have qualifying leaders that are building the business, you should have a once a week strategy session with them. This is how you know what to do, what they're, where they're at, what they need for the rest of the month. It's crucial. It's critical. I don't even know how people build without strategy calls every single week. I did this at the very beginning of my business with all of my leaders, and I still do it today, 12 years later. So I think one of the things that's really important to do with your strategy calls is you have to come up with 3 most important priorities that week. And I usually ask them, if you could just do 3 things this week in doTERRA that would make the biggest difference with your business, what would those 3 things be? And then we come up with those three priorities, and then we plan out how we're going to get those done. And we plan out, when they're going to get done. And then I hold them accountable. And those are the most important part. And I help them and I invest in them. I don't just sit back and say, go, 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 and do your thing. I'm very, very involved with helping them achieve those priorities. So the next thing you need to have on your calendar is you need to be doing a team call. Now, I recommend team calls are for people that are diamonds and above. So if you have a diamond organization, you should have your own team call. If you don't have a diamond organization, you should probably be joining your upline that's a diamond or above. And if you're in a country in a different language and you're a lower rank, that's when it would be appropriate to have your own team call. But these team calls should only be a half an hour. They should be training on, a 5-minute training on a different oil each week, and then a training on something with the business. And what do you train on with the business? Well, whatever they're struggling with, right? And the way that you find out what they're struggling with is by listening to them in the strategy calls. And if you don't know how to train on this, there's so much available training online that's for free, or ask an upline to come on or a sideline to come on and help you. And then you just go over in your team call, upcoming like dates, like, okay, leadership is coming up, or we have a BOGO coming up, or Dr. Hill's going to be in town, or he has an online webinar or whatever. And that team call should happen every single week. The reason why team calls are so crucial is because there's some people that just kind of get lost. They don't have maybe the most supportive upline, or they don't know where to go for information. And this team call is a place where anybody and everybody can go. And it's just a half an hour long. And then the last and most important thing, there's one more thing I'm going to go back to it. But the next thing is contacting and following up. Now, for me, I really like to contact and follow up. It's something that I do naturally, but it's not something that I loved at the very beginning of my business. I had to grow into a love for contacting. So what I did when I really was interested in moving forward in my business and rank advancing is I actually scheduled times during the week that I would contact. And I'm going to tell you, I did a lot more than this when I wanted to, hit a high rank. But I'm going to say, if you have at least 4 hours a week of scheduled contacting and following up, meaning you don't talk to anybody except for people that haven't purchased a kit and enrolled with doTERRA, 4 hours a week. And sometimes it's an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon, an hour at night, but it's scheduled and it's on your schedule. And you just do it week after week, month after month. This is what brings that like pipeline that consistently you have leaders coming to the table, and you never get to that point where you just hit a wall and you feel like, I don't know where to go with doTERRA, right? I don't have anything. And that's because you've stopped contacting and you've stopped following up with people. And it's an amazing thing when you get into this habit, when you get into this effectively building and you've scheduled out your time effectively, things just seem to like flow with your business. And it seems to be more and more effortless. At the beginning, there's so much effort to go into, coming up with a routine, but then it becomes automatic. It's something you don't even think about. It's just something that you do, and you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to stress about it. You don't have to, second guess yourself and think, am I going to do that? Am I not going to do that? You just do it. And the business becomes easier and easier and funner and funner. And then of course, the last thing, which I skipped, is you have to put time in your week for wellness consults. So once someone purchases a kit, you need to do a wellness consult with them, because at that wellness consult is where they're going to get information for continuing education. It's where they're going to get information for getting on LRP, setting up a template. And this is the next step right after they come to a class and buy a kit. So those are the most important things, and the things that I found that, and sometimes you can't do all of them at once. You have to okay, I'm going to work on this, and now I'm going to implement this. But over months, when you start implementing all those pieces and they all come together and it's something you're doing on a weekly basis, your business will just start exploding. I remember this leader told me, I have such a hard time finding business builders. I can sign up product users, all day long, but I just really struggle with finding business builders. And I said, okay, what I want you to do is I want you to implement the strategy. I want you to implement, these things in your schedule, and then come back and talk to me. Let's talk about it a couple months later. Give yourself some time and be really consistent. And so a couple months later, she calls me back, and this is what she said. She goes, Allyse, okay, I now have a new problem. And I'm like, okay, what's that? And she goes, I don't know how to train all of the builders that are coming out of the woodwork. I don't even know how to schedule time. I don't know how to help them all. And I said to her, that is a great problem to have. That's exactly the problem that all of us want to have. So I know that at least for me in my personal business, when I am really great with my schedule, when I'm taking time for myself in the mornings and doing the things that are most important for my life in the mornings, which means usually waking up, an hour earlier than my kids wake up. And then when I'm making sure that I have at least a couple hours a day that are my top productivity hours, right? That I don't let anything, get in my way. I don't let anything bother me. I don't let anything distract me. And then if I have a schedule that involves all of these pieces of the business, my business, it just moves and it flows. And I was talking to my daughter this morning. My daughter is 22 years old and she has been doing doTERRA for about a year and a half. She's a diamond. And I was telling her this morning, I said, Marisa, I like to be in a place with my business that I love to do my business. I don't like to be in a place where I'm like dreading it, where I'm like, I have to do this, or this is just, it's not fun for me anymore, or I'm not enjoying myself. And so when I get everything scheduled and when I stay really consistent and when I take care of myself and do self-care for myself, what's most important to me in the morning, I really love what I do. In fact, so many people have asked, what, if you could do anything in the world, like Allyse, what would you do? And I'm like, I would do exactly what I'm doing. Like, there's nothing else I would rather do. There's nothing else I love more. There's no other lifestyle I'd want. I can be the mom I want. I can be the wife that I want. I can help people like I've never helped them before. And yes, I have to say that the first 3 or 4 years, I worked incredibly hard. I didn't have the flexibility that I do now. That first 3 or 4 years, there is a price to be paid to have financial freedom, to have time freedom. But one thing that I wasn't as good at as I am now is scheduling my time effectively. And so if I could tell you one thing to change, to do better than I did, and it took a long time for me to learn how to really effectively schedule my time, is to go pull out your schedules, whether it's on your phone or a piece of paper on your computer, and look at your schedule. I usually tell my leaders, okay, I want to see your schedule. Put everything on your schedule that you have to do. Like if you have to drop off kids places, if you have things you have to do with, work, or, with your church or whatever it is, and you put that on your schedule, and you'll be really surprised at how much white space there is, how much actual free time you actually have. And then start plugging in all of those things. First, your morning schedule, what you need to do for yourself. And then these 7 things, and these 7 key things that you need to do to be successful in doTERRA, and then fill in those at least 2 hours of high productivity time. And it might take a few months for you to kind of get in the hang of it and to feel comfortable with it. But once it starts becoming habitual, once it starts becoming automatic, the business is so fun, and it just runs. It's like a machine. Like I got to this point probably about 4 years ago where I just couldn't stop leaders from rank advancing. Like it became this diamond machine, like diamond making machine, just diamonds. And it was almost like I didn't have to think about it anymore. It just naturally happened. And that will happen with your business, right? first, you've got to get good at it yourself and rank advance yourself. And then as you teach others to become really, really good at this, you'll start having people in your organization rank advancing. And the other day somebody asked me, do you really believe that doTERRA works? And I was like, no, I don't believe it works. I know it works. I've seen it over and over and over and over again, not just in my life, but in hundreds and thousands of people in every country, for every language, in my organization, that has not only worked, but it's completely changed their life. And so, yes, it works. doTERRA works. The compensation plan works. The system works. Being effective works. The question is, are you going to work? That's the only question, is if you're going to work. So I hope that you've gotten something out of today's training. I certainly have. In fact, just talking to you, I thought of a few things, in my schedule that I need to get better at, that I need to tweak, that I need to get a little bit more automated with. And as I get off this call, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I want to up level and I want to do a better job. Right. So I've gotten a lot out of just speaking to you. I hope that you've gotten something out of being here today. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, absolutely, Allyse. Thank you very much. It's highly appreciated. Would you have a few minutes to answer a couple of questions that we have? Okay.
Sure.
So about this, there's a question about this 2 hour. Should those be, or what do you recommend? Should those be consecutive hours? Or you can have like 1 hour here and 1 hour in the afternoon?
So this is what I found. Sometimes people don't have 2 hours. And if they don't, you kind of do, what you can. But have you ever found, like, when you kind of start getting in a groove and a hang of something, the first 20 minutes or 30 minutes, you're not quite as good. But when you kind of really get in a groove of something, you start getting more and more effective with your time. So it's best if you can have those 2 hours just right together. If you can't, then, you can spread them out, but it's not effective. It's like half an hour here, 45 minutes there. You kind of just never get into that groove. So yeah, I would put those 2 hours right together. And even Oliver, I'm being serious, for somebody like you that's in corporate, doing 2 hours a day, you'd be so surprised when you push off all of, everything that could distract you. You'll get more done in a day. I mean, it's just I feel like in those 2 hours of effective time, I literally get as much done as most people get done in a full work day.
Okay, I see. And you mentioned these 7 principles, these 7 money-making activities. Do you do those in those 2 hours, or those activities are outside of the 2 hours?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the contacting and the following up, that is part of my 2 hours that I do, because for me, those 2 hours of effective building usually are the things that will push my business further. So I do use those as contacting and following up, but everything else, like my mentor calls and my class and continuing education and team calls, those are outside of my 2 hours a day. Okay.
Makes sense. There's another question about finding people. Rosella asks, the problem is how to find the people for the classes. Do you have some advice about that?
Yeah, that's always the problem, right? Of how to find the people for the classes. So that could be a whole nother hour webinar on how to find people, because there's so many different ways of finding people. So I don't know that I'm going to answer it today. I will say this, and then maybe we could jump on another call and only talk about finding, because it's a really long conversation, right? And there's so many different ways to find. But I will say this. I found that most people that are struggling with finding people, it's because they think about finding more than they actually do the finding. They worry about what am I going to do? And I don't know anybody. And instead of just going out and actually doing the finding. And I'll give you one tip. I'll just give you one tip, and then maybe we could do another call on just finding, and we can go into a lot more detail. Sometimes when my husband and I feel like we've hit a wall and we're like, oh, we just maybe have run out of people to talk to, or not very many people on our list, or we need new leaders or whatever. We just go to a whiteboard and we just have a brainstorm session. We just say, okay, we are not going to leave this room until we write up 50 different ideas of ways to find people or find new leaders or bring people into the business. And some of them, I mean, towards the end, 50, it gets a little ridiculous. It's like crazy things. We're just writing things down just so we can get to 50. But then what we do is we look on our whiteboard and we circle what we feel like are the top 5 things that we feel best about. And then we do those things. Now I have to tell you that usually only 1 out of those 5 things actually works. Only 1 out of the 5. But guess what? We're always trying new things. And isn't that kind of how life is? I mean, not all of our ideas work. Not all the things we do work. And so in my mind, I never set myself up to think every single thing I do needs to work, or I'm giving up, or it means that the business isn't working. In my mind, I usually think about 10 to 20% of my ideas are going to work. I just need to find those new ideas. And then once I find something that starts working, then I really invest in it. I really do it more. I put energy and money and time into it. So that's something that we do, but we can talk a little bit more about it at a different call probably.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to hear and share this great information with the people. Well, Allyse, thank you very much. Honestly, listening to you right now, not just to the information, but like the level of energy and passion you're doing it, I'm absolutely not surprised you're triple presidential diamond. You totally deserve this. And we are very grateful to have this great abundance mentality to share everything that worked for you.
Well, can I just say one last thing when you said that? You know how sometimes we look on the internet or on social media and we see a picture of like someone's life or their family or their beautiful house, right? And we get this feeling like, well, that is what, that's what my life should look like, or that's what my family should be like, or that's what my house should be like. I think sometimes we do the same thing with leaders. I think that we look at them and we think, oh, they're a diamond, or they're a presidential, or, they're the top ranked in the company. And they assume what their path to that was. Now, I have to tell you that I've made more mistakes than anyone in the whole company. I really have. And I know that for a few years, David Sterling, our CEO, would say only 2 out of 10 of Allyse's ideas are good because the rest of them don't work. Right. And I lost a lot of money, and and it was hard, and I hurt some people's feelings, and I lost leaders sometimes. And I think sometimes, that idea of what the business looks like if it's working for us is the wrong idea. Because if you were to look into my business right now, if you were to look into all of, my different legs and all the different organizations, what you would find is a mess, a beautifully orchestrated mess, right? And what you would find is just us continuing to work, and us continuing to find, and us continuing to love the product, but working with problems and hitting walls and not being able. Gosh, I'll be really honest with you. I was mentoring somebody just 2 months ago, and I thought I was doing a good job. I thought, this is great. And she told me on the phone, she goes, you know what, Allyse, I kind of want to go back to my other leader. I kind of liked her better as a mentor. And I was like, oh, it hurt my feelings, right? And so I called, and she was in my downline, and I called her leader up, and I said, you know what? She likes you better, and you do more for her. And so I just want you all to know that not everything is going to be perfect in our businesses for us to be successful. Sometimes we don't get along with all of our leaders. Sometimes our leaders don't like us the best. Sometimes, we get people on board and we think they're going to do great and nothing happens. Sometimes we work and work and work and work and we feel like we're spinning our wheels. But I will tell you this. I love what I do. I'm not perfect at what I do, and I don't perfectly build this business, but I am consistent. And what I found is that consistency in this business is the most important thing. Consistency is everything. And so if you're willing to be consistent, not perfect, if you're willing to keep working at it month after month, year after year, you will become successful with all of your faults and with all of your weaknesses, because I certainly have mine. All of my leaders can attest to that, right? But I keep trying, and I'm consistent. And this plan, right? Our compensation model allows us to make mistakes. It allows us to do things wrong. It allows us to mess up a lot, and we still can be successful at doTERRA. So anyway, Oliver, I just didn't want you to put me too high up on a pedestal, because if somebody actually got to know me, they would know that I'm just pretty average.
I understand that, but even your last words that you just, shared with us, I mean, someone just said that thank you for the final words. Those meant a lot to them. So thank you very, very much. And yes, we absolutely, let's continue in a chat, and we want to continue to learn from you about contacting and all the other stuff. And guys, if you would like to continue, even like separately, go to oilgames.com and also dailymentorcalls.com. Just go to those websites, because there you can enroll to a program, you can continue to learn, and you can build your business with that. So Allyse, thank you very much. Highly appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. I just want to say that I apologize we're not able to answer. I know that we have a lot of questions, but I promise that we'll continue with the education. And Allyse, as she offered, we're going to have her in the future, so we can continue with the education.
Yeah, let's talk about how to find people. It's one of my favorite topics.
Lovely. Sounds great. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye. See you guys.